Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. On today's episode, we're going to check out what happens when a marine scientist sets up a custom reef aquarium. Alright, thank you for joining me on yet another episode of Parker's Reefs, and as touched on in the intro, today we are visiting a marine scientist, Hadley, England, the man behind Sydney Reefing, which is an Instagram channel that has blown up over the last year and is now on this platform on YouTube, producing some beautiful juicy content around his aquarium and also some of the work he does in the space of marine science. Now, that then poses a good question, because if you're anything like me in this hobby, we all kind of consider ourselves a little bit of a average marine scientist. But what happens when you are a legitimate marine scientist and you have a crazy custom reef aquarium at home and are about to set up a custom aquarium that well, really pushes the boundaries and angles of how we go about this hobby. So I figured it was a fantastic opportunity to head on over to Hadley's apartment, put a microphone on the man and get him to tell us all about his current aquarium and his soon to be set up brand new aquarium. So without any further ado, let's roll the footage and have a chat to Hadley himself. All right, we are here at Hadley's home. Sydney Reefing himself has welcomed us into his place to check out this incredible system, and I'm super excited to have mic'd you up, and I've been following your content on Instagram and now on YouTube for some time, and I'm going to say you put out some juicy content. So to be standing here in the flesh with you microphoned up to talk about this tank is super, super exciting. So firstly, thank you.
Thank you.
Hadley, tell us, what are we looking at here? What's this reef tank?
So this is a custom peninsula tank.
Yes.
I've had a few different tanks over the years.
Okay.
The first one I ever built was actually like a really shallow 30 centimeter tank, which I absolutely loved.
That's a very small volume.
It was very, very small, but it was really easy to work on, but I was just really missing that depth to it.
Sure.
So I thought the next one I build, I obviously want it a bit higher.
Okay.
I wasn't too keen, while I did build the cabinet and everything myself, I wasn't overly keen on building a tank. Okay. I've never built one and I don't want my house to be flooded. So I just opted for a standard Aqua 1 tank. Okay. I think it's an Aqua Sis 300. It's a 3 foot by 1.5 by 1.5 high. Just a very standard generic tank.
That's nice.
I drilled the holes in the back. I used an E-Shops weir at the back as well.
They're a nice, neat little weir.
It's not like overly tidy or anything. It's kind of...
Okay.
You know when you build something and you know all the little niggly bits with it? Yeah, exactly. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, so I chose that for the tank itself. And then I used extruded aluminium. Your tank actually inspired me to use that. Epic. I was actually watching your video and where you got... I think I even bought it from the same place in Melbourne.
Oh man, no commission.
So I really love that sort of idea of using aluminium, because then I can recycle it later if I want. It's really strong and light. It's not prone to corrosion or anything.
Yes.
And then I cladded it in a 13 millimeter marine ply.
Looks fantastic.
And then I coated it in like an aqua enamel. Like there's a few bits and pieces that are starting to crack and everything, but I'm not really too fussed about it because it's
clean, if you
built from hand from someone who's not a carpenter. So
it's turned out incredible. You should be very proud of that.
But I also wanted something that sort of could incorporate itself into the living room. So that's why I put these shelves here.
Yeah, you've got these cool little shelves, which gives you the chance to put some, big coral skeletons, clams there, and even some coral magazines down there. Super, super cool.
Yeah. So my wife's an interior architect, so I sort of needed something that could fit in with the house and not just be a blue eyesore.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I went with this sort of design. I like this sort of size tank because it's manageable. And it's a lot cheaper to stock, obviously, when you have a slightly smaller tank as well.
This is true. Now, speaking of this sort of size tank, do you know roughly what sort of literage we're talking about here?
I'm pretty sure it's a 300 litre tank, and then the Sump's about another 50 litre, so it'll be about 3 to 350 litre all up. So so big enough that it can sort of manage itself.
Definitely, and you're not wasting a lot of space with this gigantic weir or anything.
No,
it's
exactly.
All of about 200 millilitres.
Exactly, yeah. And I like there's a bit of a room divider as well. Like
it's a beautiful little peninsula. Really, really cool the way. You've got your lounge over there, and then you've got this beautiful view out over Sydney there. So, hence the Sydney Reefing name, but. It's turned out a treat, and there's nothing like a custom built system. And you can build it to suit the space like this perfectly. It just looks a treat.
I get so many questions online, like, where'd you buy this from? And I'm like, oh, I actually made it. I'm like,
yeah.
I've had a few people ask if I can make them one, and I'm like, oh. Whilst it was a bit cheaper to make, it took me 3 weeks.
Yeah, you're not allowed to factor in the time that you spent on it.
Oh, the amount of dust and everything everywhere. But no, it was worth it in the end.
Definitely worth it in the end. Now, can you tell us roughly how long this system's been running for?
A bit over 12 months.
Wow, that's all.
So not very long at all.
Wow, it looks so much more mature than that.
Yeah.
Got some great growth going on in there.
I think about 16 months it's been running. So it's, again, with a smaller tank, it doesn't take that long for all the corals to grow out and fill it out, which is nice. So.
But yeah, you've really only, well, in the time frame where you've just sort of in the clear from all the ugly stages and things now, and your corals are just hitting their strides and really looking fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get into those corals and fish shortly, but any chance you can run us through what sort of equipment you're running? Maybe we'll go top to bottom.
Sure.
Starting up here, speaking of extruded aluminium, I noticed a nice custom light frame there.
Yeah, so I continued the extruded aluminium up the top for the light frame. I've used this previously on tanks. It's really strong. It's able to hold a lot of weight just with the joints I've got there. Yeah. And it's actually, I was able to mount it directly to the frame itself, which I really liked.
Yeah, yep.
Obviously, then you can see I've got the aqua illumination blades and the hydras.
Light I'm a big fan of.
I absolutely love the blades. They really suit this sort of tank and style because they're so slimline as well. But just also the spread you get. I used to, when I first started this tank, I just had the 32 HDs and 216s on the side, which were great at the time, but I was noticing I was getting a lot of shading on all the corals, so I needed something just with a bit more spread.
And that gives you the best of both worlds. You've got like 4 sort of good pucks there from the 32s, and then you've got 2 full blankets down each side. And I've got to say, you're getting fantastic shimmer in there too. Like this
not bad.
it's a very nice level shimmer for lights that are probably not known to be big shimmer producers.
No, not really. Like I will say, the only thing I don't like about these is that the UV does go in them. But it doesn't really bother me too much because I'm sort of wanting more of a natural sort of look than like a really fluorescent.
Ultra disco.
Yeah, exactly. So and then I've got my auto feeder up there as well, which is really handy for when I go away. One of the reasons why I shut down my previous tank was I actually had a nutrient dropout. And I had dinos, and just because I was traveling so much, it was so hard just to manage it. So I just shut it down completely. And I thought next time I'm going to make sure I'm never get a nutrient dropout. So that's set to feed 4 times a day. So
decent.
Yeah, even if I miss out on feeding normally, I know that there's always nutrients going into the tank, which is really nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then we've talked about the E-Shops overflow, but you've got all your flow being a peninsula, of course. Typically, we like to try to keep all the flow up the peninsula area, well, the weir end, I guess. You've got quite a bit of flow going in there for a reasonably small system.
So previously, I've got 1 Nero 5 and 1 Nero 3 and then Orbit as well. Previously, I had 2 Nero 3s, but I was finding that 2 Nero 3s and a Nero 5. But I was finding a lot of the sand was getting turned up, which I didn't like at all. And it's hard trying to get a lot of flow in such a small sort of tank without stirring up all the sediment. So I put this Nero in there, so that sort of blows over the aquascape and down like that. And then I've got these 2 Neros on the side, which kind of oscillate. So they sort of give a bit of a wavy sort of motion, which is what you want. So I've got the Orbit sort of providing the main lot of flow around the tank.
Getting that real laminar flow around the scape.
And then the Neros just kind of disrupt it.
And being all AI, it makes it easy. You can sync them all, anti-sync, do whatever you need to do. Yeah.
Whenever I want to do a water change, I just press one button and it all turns off. And it's great. I didn't have time to clean the wave makers bus, so don't judge me. I just got back from being away for 2 weeks. So
for those who don't know, you're not just a reef keeper. You're actually, well, I was going to say in the industry, but you're in the broader industry in that you're a scientist studying in the field. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So previously, I've been in the hobbyist industry for quite a while. I used to work at shops, and I worked at Sydney Zoo as well, where I was an aquarist. But recently, I've been doing a PhD at the University of Technology, Sydney, for 3 years. I think I'm in the last 6 months. So it's crunch time. But I'm a member of the Future Reefs team there. So we do a lot of work on sort of the elemental space and biogeochemistry of reefs. So specifically, we look at how trace elements can affect the thermal tolerance of corals. So the whole point of my thesis was kind of to try and sort of identify elements that we can use to increase thermal tolerance and dose out on reefs during periods of bleaching or periods of thermal stress, to prevent bleaching. So that's it's been really nice trying to combine both the hobby sort of side of things and then the research side
it's perfect because I could be possibly a little egotistical here, but that sounds like something that hobbyists have almost paved the way for the professional scientists then to adapt into the wild.
Definitely. There's a lot of things in science which, like, a lot of research come up with all these brand new ways of doing things like microfragmentation, not realizing that the hobby industry has been doing it for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, we've refined it to an art now.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot that the two industries can offer each other. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence in the hobbyist industry, which just hasn't really been documented that well, or
Spot on, yeah.
And it
hasn't been monitored in a professional
exactly
condition.
Exactly. Like, and that's the difficult thing with science, is everything's got to be peer reviewed.
Yes.
And it's, I can see why.
Can't just be because John said on Facebook.
No, exactly.
Which
and
is probably a good thing.
Yeah. And I know that if I add certain things to my tank, it's going to cause this sort of chain reaction, this is going to happen. And that's a sort of a common thing that aquarists know.
Yes.
But in science, we have to document that. And unless we can document it and repeat it, it doesn't happen, doesn't exist as far as they're concerned. So it's been really nice. And I've been fortunate enough to go on a few field trips as well. So recently we went to Groot Island up in the Northern Territory, where a lot of the reefs up there haven't actually been documented before.
Wow.
And I was fortunate enough to be able to bring some of those samples back to the university where we can study them. And there's actually a few of those I keep in this tank specifically, because at the tank at uni we get a few pests and stuff in it, so I always like to try and keep a backup of those corals.
Just like
in
all
this
us
tank here.
hobbyists do,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Your backups just tend to be either at home or in, like a scientifically controlled lab. Which
exactly.
maybe just to level up on what most people do. I'll be sure to post some pictures of some of the content that you picked up when you're away on these trips, because it's nothing short of jealousy from my behalf. I look at these pictures and I'm like, oh man, I'm working my desk job and I see
it's not all field work. I reckon like
95%
of the time is in a lab, like clean gloves, everything, cleaning everything.
Of course,
and then
but as an Instagram content creator like you are, the Instagram filter shows all of the cool stuff.
It certainly does.
Those pictures look ridiculous. So I'll share some of those. But it does also lead to a point we should touch on, that you're not just on Instagram, you are on YouTube and you are making waves on there. Sydney Reefing channel has blown up lately, and your content's ultra smooth, and you've got some cool things coming on there. And
inspired by you.
No, surely not. No, if you were inspired by me, you've put me to shame way too quickly. So I'll be sure to put some links in the details below. If anyone happens to not have already be following Sydney Reefing, they'll get you on there and follow the progress of this tank and also some other things you got in the works, which are super cool. And maybe even see some of those juicy Instagram photos for when you're not in the lab and when you are out diving on these ridiculously cool reefs. But we should continue on with the equipment, because you haven't just made this beautiful cabinet just to sit the tank on. You've got some filtration underneath there as well.
Certainly.
Keeps things alive, so let's suss that out.
So the Sump system is not something I'm overly proud of. I mean, hence why it's all hidden. Sort of a bit of not an afterthought, but it's got everything it needs. So initially when I designed it, I wanted this big space in the back where I can put this heated chiller.
Yes.
So this is one of the older TK chillers. It also heats.
Yes.
So there's no need for a heater or anything, which I absolutely love. I've got my roller mat here,
yes,
which I absolutely love as well. I think that's partly why I get a lot of questions about how I keep my tank so clear.
And it is clear. Peninsulas always look extra clear,
but
this looks extra clear.
And I reckon that's due to the roller mat. Like, it just does such a great job. Like, I'd probably change the rolls every 3 months.
Oh, that's decent. Yeah.
So it lasts a long time.
Yes.
And I'm also able to check, it's sort of a backup with the way that the Reef Beat app works. I can check whether my return pump is always working as well, because that's one thing I'm worried about when I'm away.
Yes.
So I can always tell if the roller mat's working and rolling, then I know the return pump's working, which is good.
Perfect.
Next, I just have this cheap aqua skimmer.
Yeah.
My nutrient levels are always pretty low, so I don't really worry about it.
Don't need to over skim it.
No, I use it mainly just to use my CO2 scrubbing media.
Yep, sure.
Just with the tank and the size and with the amount of corals in an enclosed compartment, I get a lot of CO2 build up and my pH sort of drops, so that's why that's there.
Yep.
Next I've got this, it's a cool little water monitor. It's by Cactotili. It's Wi-Fi, you can connect to it via Wi-Fi, but basically it can give you a readout of like pH. Salinity is not overly accurate, and temperature as well. So I'm able to log in anywhere in the world and check all that, which is really handy when I'm traveling.
Very handy, yeah.
Combined with a webcam as well. I've got a fish cam. So when I'm away, I can always check that my fish are alive and healthy.
Every reef keeper that spends any sort of time away from the tank has a webcam.
Oh, it's so good. Just, you get so anxious when you're away and you're like, oh, did I remember to do this and to do that? And you can always check, which is great.
Excellent.
And then, so what else have I got? I've got the Red Sea ATO top-up, which I love, because that also gives temperature as well.
Nice.
One thing I really love about this tank as well is whenever I go away, because I often get my wife to look after it, or my sister or something, and they often can't sort of carry massive amounts of water to do ATO top-up. So I've actually got a secondary ATO top-up connected to my reservoir. So basically all I have to do is chuck this in the water canister, flip the switch, it fills it all the way up to the top, and then take it out, and it's so easy.
Very nice.
It makes life a lot easier.
It is funny. I mean, with aquariums, we deal with pumps
Yep.
everywhere, yet for some reason when we need to move water from one spot to another, we want to siphon it, we want to tip it in, we have pumps.
Exactly, make life easier, work smarter, not harder.
Definitely.
And I've got my Reef dose as well.
Yes.
I absolutely love it. It's really reliable. Never had any issues with it, touch wood. I go through quite a lot of alkalinity as well, so it's nice just sort of knowing that the pump's nice and reliable and it's not really going to skip out. And if it does skip out on a dosing regime, it will tell me as well.
Excellent.
Because I go through probably like 60 to 70 mils of alk a day, which is a fair amount.
It's a decent amount for the volume of the tank. Yeah,
it's a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of the Sump system. Nothing super fancy. It does the job.
Does the job. No, it's a very adequate system, and the results speak for themselves. And we'll look in the glass box in a second. But while we're down here, your dosing regime, obviously you've got it hooked up to the doser, but products you're using?
So I use Quantum products.
Yes.
So I use their A, B, and C aragonite. I found the Quantum aragonites a bit more concentrated than other products I've found. I have to dose less of it, which is sort of really important.
It's a bonus. When you're already at 70 mil, you don't need
dosing that amount.
20, yeah.
I also dose their Bio-Enhance and occasionally chuck in some Phyto as well.
Sure.
So that's kind of all I dose. I just dose 4 different things into the tank.
Keeping it simple, Trace elements, anything like that?
Trace elements, I occasionally do like some biometals and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mainly add these when I do seawater changes. So I use natural seawater just because it's a bit lower in alkalinity as well. As this generally runs about 7.6.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Which helps to manage the coral growth as well.
Nice.
I'm constantly trimming.
Excellent. No, that's a good system. I like it. Very nicely done. Well, now we've had a look at all of the infrastructure on this picture perfect system. We need to now focus on what's inside the glass box. Would you like to talk about the fish or the coral first?
Sure, I'll talk about the fish.
Yeah, let's do it. What do we got in here?
So, I actually can't remember exactly how many fish I've got. But most of these I've actually had for probably the full year now. I haven't really added any fish over time. Probably my favourite fish would actually be this Bengai cardinal. I actually raised that from a tiny baby from the parents I had in a previous tank.
Yes.
So it's nice that he's still sort of kicking along.
That's brilliant.
So I've got 2 clowns here,
which
absolutely love my
Enjoying the gonies,
I've got a coral beauty, which is nice and fat as well. I've got a 6-line wrasse.
No trouble with the 6-line?
No, I absolutely love them. They keep a lot of the pests at bay, which I really like. I've actually introduced a whole lot of them to the tanks at uni because we get in a lot of wild acros and stuff like that. So we've really noticed a significant drop in the amount of acro-eating flatworms we get.
Yes.
We've got a flame hawk.
Yeah, one of my favourites.
My wife's favourite. His name is Roger.
Roger.
If we're sitting here doing something, he'll follow us around the tank and just watch us. He is so funny. He'll find the weirdest places to perch and just sit there. He's a real character. And then I've got 5 chromis.
Yeah, nice little school of chromis in
there.
there.
Previously when I kept chromis, it's pretty difficult to keep them in a small group like that. They tend to always kill each other off. I think I just got lucky with sort of the gender balance or the sizes of them. I haven't really had any issues with them at all. And I've had 5 for the entire year now with no issues. So
look great,
and I've got some striped cardinals as well.
These
guys actually breed as well. So the male often have eggs in his mouth. I don't think he does at the moment. I've also got just a random damsel there. kept damsels before. I found often just keeping them in a single or just as one, there's less trouble from them.
Yep, fair call.
They can be a bit aggressive. And I've also got two of my other favourite fish are actually the coral gobies I have.
Look at this guy in here.
Constantly breeding. I really love how they sort of just sit in all the coral.
Yeah.
It's like an actual sort of living ecosystem.
Definitely. Gives a complete point of difference to all the other fish.
The only bad thing is that they're slowly killing this acropora over this side.
It's giving you a little too much traffic.
Well, for a while, they had a little spot where they'd always lay eggs. And then I had some Postelopora crabs move in next door, and they started stealing the eggs off them.
So that's why they moved in.
So the coral gobies have slowly made their way through the entire acropora, eating all the little bits of skeleton offs to try and find different areas to lay eggs.
They're looking for somewhere new to settle.
Exactly. So I think I might need to do something about that. But no, they're really cute, and they lay pretty regularly, like every couple of weeks.
Yeah, super cool. Also got a big coral-banded shrimp there.
Yes. Yeah, he loves life.
He's looking for those eggs, isn't he?
He actually, that's actually a she. So I had a pair of them.
Yes.
I had them in my previous tank for a few years. They're always having eggs. They were lovely. Then one day she just had enough of a partner and tried to eat him. Literally ripped all the legs off him. So the poor bugger, I took him into the tank at uni. Now he's fully recovered there, but I'm
in his wheelchair.
Literally, I think he's got a bit of PTSD from that.
It's enough to turn you off marriage for sure.
Definitely. He's had a hard one.
He's definitely had there's the coral beauty that we're talking about. He's a chunky unit in there.
And I also have a red line cleaner shrimp over this side as well.
Okay,
so
nice.
I actually got that from another tank shutdown.
Okay.
I was skeptical about keeping the two together.
Yeah. Typically, a red line cleaner shrimp with coral bandeds not so good, particularly when the coral bandeds had a taste of ripping limbs off.
But no, they generally stick to their own sides of the tank.
Amazing.
And been really good. He loves to come up and feed off my hand when I put my hand in there. So.
Awesome. That's a super cool addition.
And also I have a fox face and a blue tang.
Yes.
Okay, so the blue tang is an area of contention. I've had a lot of comments online.
Sure.
Yes, I know that a full-grown blue tang and fox face should not be kept in a tank this size.
Yes.
However, I got him when he was absolutely tiny. Same with the fox face. He was actually a rescue from another tank.
Yes.
I've always planned on putting them in bigger tanks later on. Like at uni, we have I manage like 3 6-foot tanks there, so he'll go into one of those. But I'm not overly worried at the moment. They have a lot of room to move around.
There's a lot of swim space in this system.
Comparative to what a lot of full-grown tanks have, he still has heaps of room.
Definitely.
You can tell by their coloration how fat they are. They're pretty healthy too.
No,
so I'm not overly...
They're not stressed, and you've got a long-term plan.
Exactly, yeah.
If and when they get to the point where they are a bit cramped.
Yeah. Like if you did have a small tank like this and have nowhere to put them later on, I would say no. But if you have somewhere to put them or give them away, then that's completely fine.
Yes.
At the end of the day, as long as you keep them healthy, happy, like none of my fish have ever jumped out as well. Like I don't run a lid on my tank.
No net, you've got no bracing. It's open season there.
It is.
Jumped.
I think too, because I've got a lot of surface agitation, they generally don't sort of jump out too much.
Yes.
It is just me and my wife at home too. So if you have kids
like
banging
around,
that might be a bit different, but we like to try and keep a peaceful household. So no.
I remember those days.
We'll get there eventually. But no, apart from that, that's all the fish. I've got like a few critters. So I've got a heap of strom snails, which do a great job.
Quite a decent number of strom snails.
I've got an army.
Tank.
I used to look after a lot of aquariums, and people just want to get rid of them, so I just take them on, and they do a great job at keeping the sand clean.
The sand is pristine. Looks a treat.
I've got some. I've actually got 3 tuxedo urchins from Monsoon Aquatics, which do a great job. I actually want to get some smaller ones of them because there's some areas within the rockwork which they can't actually really get to. So
Monsoon now, and I know you're fully familiar with this because you're up there assisting with some of your
I was. Spent a month up there.
As well as the Monsoon team does, they're breeding these urchins up there now, and
they are.
Yeah, you'll have access to some tiny ones.
Super little, like tiny.
They'll get into anywhere in your tank.
No.
There's no issue there.
No, they're a great bunch of guys up there. I was very fortunate to spend a month up there doing some research, and they were showing me around the shop, and what they do is absolutely fantastic. Really trying to get into that sort of sustainable aquaculture.
For sure.
So a lot of their corals, actually, a lot of the corals in this tank are from them.
Yes.
So a lot of them are actually tank bred corals and stuff like that, which I'm sort of really happy about.
Definitely makes it easier to sleep at night knowing that, you know,
It
we're
does.
actively working towards preserving and even restoring reefs, not ravaging, which is nice. But
Exactly.
quick shout out to all the team at Monsoon Aquatics, from Daniel to Brooke to Juno to Jono, everyone else there. They do incredible work, and yeah, we love what they do, so keep it up. But it is a good opportunity, good segue to talk about some of the corals. Yeah, any particular you'd like to cover? You've got quite a few in there for the size of the system.
I do. I haven't been overly picky with the corals. Like I'm not someone who will go, like, being a student myself, I don't have access, like I don't have a lot of money, so I can't justify going out and spending hundreds of dollars on frags.
No.
So often, like, I'll try and find good deals here and there. So I don't have like any super special, like ultra, I don't know, whatever they're called, acros.
Yeah, you say that, but you don't have the names things, but that doesn't mean they're not ultra or not
No,
special.
that's true. Sorry. I take
Someone
that
hasn't
back.
named it, but that doesn't mean anything, really.
No. But I do love all the corals in this tank. I think one of my favorites in terms of growth form would actually be this acro at the top.
Okay,
Just the way that it's sort of grown up into the flow and it's sort of spreading around. I love when I do water changes, how it sort of comes out of the water as well. It reminds me of coral reefs during low tide when all the corals pop out. But yeah, it's...
My favourite's probably this piece here that's just growing around.
Yeah.
Are they lettuce coral or something?
I forget the scientific name.
I remember the name definitely goes with something that it looks like.
It's
whether
like
it's a
common names
lettuce
like
or
cabbage
There you
coral.
go. That's what I was after.
And he actually, so my coral goby loves hiding in there. You can just see
I
his
saw him in there before. He was
little face poking out.
He was chilling out in there. It's a super cool spot for him to hide because, I mean, no other fish is getting in there.
He is. But yeah, so I've got a lot of acro, so it's mainly sort of acro and SPS dominated. Some of my favourite acros are actually these ones here. So this is one we collected from Groot Island.
Yeah, awesome.
I sort of keep a backup in my tank just in case something goes wrong with the university, because this one is actually quite special, as it might be the only species in captivity in the world.
Wow.
So we've actually, one of our honours students, Dane, has actually gone through and we collected 40 corals from Groot Island.
Yes.
And we had a few of them come back that have previously undescribed. So it could be a potential new species.
Crazy.
So we're waiting to hear back about that.
You are worried about not having ultra named corals. You could have the only one of that coral.
Possibly. So that one's a special one. So we've got some backups of that at the uni, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So I've got a lot of Seriatopora as well, which I really love.
Definitely. The way that's growing in down there looks awesome too.
It's pretty good. It's it's a bit of a weed. I have to trim it back a lot. There's one over this side which I really like, but it's starting to sort of die off at the base just because sort of lights, a bit limiting. So I'm constantly...
It does have a beautiful fine structure to it.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, it gives a very nice contrast against some of the other pieces in there, which is nice.
I'm constantly having to trim all the corals up around the brim here.
They're just right in the light and the flow, just living their best life.
Oh, they love it. But yeah, it's this Posilopera here is actually, that's probably one of my oldest corals I've ever had. I've had that probably 6 years now, that particular colony. Obviously it's grown out and fragged over time. Same with this leather here.
Yes.
So that was actually a frag I took of one of my very first corals I ever had.
Awesome.
And I actually had that mother colony spawn in one of my first tanks at home.
Leather spawned?
It was super cool. I'll send you some footage that you can... But that was super cool. I came home one night. I'm like, what the heck is going on with my water? It was like so cloudy and all these little tiny things. And I had a closer look and all these little legs were coming up. It was so cool.
You were destined to be in
it was,
sporting leathers in your tank.
Sadly, I couldn't get any of them to settle or fertilize or anything.
That's a whole nother level, that's where Monsoon steps in.
Yes, exactly. But it was super cool to just witness in your own aquarium as well. And I think that's also testament to the lights as well, with the lunar settings and all that.
Definitely.
And then, so apart from all the SPS I also have quite a few Gonnies, which I really love. This one I'm really happy with. I got it as a tiny little frag for free because it was almost dead. And I brought it back from the brink of death, which is nice.
The best.
My clowns love the Gonnies.
Yes, they keep monsters there.
They are a bit of a pain butt because I try and sort of work all my corals around the tank in areas that they're not going to sort of attack each other and kill each other.
Of course.
Coral warfare is something that I'm constantly having to manage in this tank, as you can probably see in like areas like that where my Posiloperas are. But I think
fighting for that, premium real estate up here on the top of the rock.
It's a full-on World War III up there. But I try and trim it as much as I can, but sometimes you just have to let it go. And some corals die, but I mean that's all part of keeping tanks.
Very true.
But yeah, these gonnies, I like them down there because they're sort of out of the way. They need a little bit less light. And
Yeah, they don't need to get the light at the top. They'll take whatever sort of scraps of light make their way through, and you can see they enjoy it. And it does give you that nice multi-leveled scape going on there too. So yeah, it works well.
And I've even got some Montipora growing on the sides there, which actually doesn't get any direct light.
It's nearly in complete darkness in there, but you can see it's got a white growth ring on it.
That's crazy. I don't even really know where it came from. It's just, Montipora is like a weed. It just grows. Same with this. Like, I've fragged that so many times.
I love that.
It's digitata.
It is a digi, yeah. It's quite a thick branching for a digi.
It is, yeah.
I love it. It's almost like a hybrid between a digi and a stag. It's got that real chunky, wide open branch to it. Love it.
And if anyone wants to get into SPS, I actually really recommend Montiporas. They're generally pretty hardy.
Yes.
They were some of the first SPS I ever had.
Yes.
And they just grow like crazy. So yeah, they're great to fill out your tank, and they give you sort of a bit of volume too, which is great.
Perfect.
Next, so I'll work my way around this way.
Sure, go for it.
So next I've got a clam.
Yeah, I was going to say if you didn't point him out, I would.
So that's actually from Monsoon Aquatics as well. So
is that one of their spawns?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I should ask them, but
based on the size, it probably is.
Yeah, it's a decent size. It has grown a fair bit as well. And
How's
then
it go with the goni just like tickling the top of it there?
I mean, it survives. It hasn't moved or anything. So
fair enough.
I've had it now probably 6 months, and it's fine.
Great.
I did move it around to the front here, but it always ends up back there. So I guess it's
that's where it wants to be.
Exactly. And then I've got this Christmas tree worm, tree worm rock as well.
Awesome.
So that's covered with some zoas on the other side. I need to actually trim them back because they keep growing over the varieties which they live in. So, and then I've got some fireworks polyps.
Yes.
If you have a full tank like this, I actually recommend not to get them.
They're beautiful, but they can be fairly invasive.
Honestly, I try and rip them out every time I do a water change, and they just grow back like crazy. They just smother everything. Like, I've got some acans in there which they've smothered, and they look nice, but it's just
it's funny. It only takes them to kill a few corals, and they don't look so nice.
No, they don't. Yes. They are beautiful. I would love to have a tank with just them, but in a tank like this, it's fine. And then I've got some green Seriatopora there, another bird's nest. I actually
really like the placement of that. It's getting light through the acro above it there, and just really like lights up in that spot. Looks fantastic.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I tried to sort of do sort of a multi-tiered sort of aquascape. It's hard when you got dense coral like this to try and sort of get enough light down the side. So I've also tried to do it so when light reflects off the side. So I think that's why the gonies are sort of doing half well there.
Sure. Yep. Plus, it doesn't hurt when your sand's that pristine white.
It's not always like that. When I got home the other week, it was pretty filthy. But I think I've got a lot of spaghetti worms in the sand, which really help to keep it clean as well, which I've noticed.
Nice.
And then I've got another goni there. That was another rescue, which wasn't doing too well.
It looks fantastic now.
Need to move it to another spot.
He's going to run out of real estate.
Yeah, he will. And then I've got strawberry shortcake. That was from Monsoon as well.
Beautiful.
Just a whole lot of other random sort of little SCS there.
It's like a little Miyagi tort, perhaps, or something like that. You get some Dallas in there. That once that settles in, it's already settled. You can already see the growth on it. That's going to shoot up. That'll be a cool placement for the Dallas because it's not going to crowd that end, but it'll put out nice wide branches and kind of connect the bottom to the top. It'll be awesome.
I get a lot of questions about what the aquascape looked like before I put corals in.
Yes.
It was horrid. It was just like I was just a bunch of rocks I glued together.
Yes.
So I wouldn't actually worry. Like, people who are building aquascapes, I wouldn't worry too much about what the shape looks like. Yep. You're not going to see it in the end anyway.
I always tell people, you always over deliberate on the aesthetics of an empty rockscape.
Yeah.
It is absolutely irrelevant. The function about getting flow through things, about having spot to place corals, and thinking about which corals you're going to place low, which one's high, which one's front, which one's back. That's much, much more important.
Exactly, because corals will do their own thing, and then you're at their mercy anyway. So the best thing you can do is select the types of corals you want. So if you want like a lot of volume in one area, go for sort of the longer growing sort of SPS. And that's why sort of here I chose sort of the shorter, sort of chunkier ones there, like Seriatopora and stuff, because I wanted that to be a bit lower in this area.
Yes.
And then so right next to that, I've got this hammer garden.
Yeah, it's looking fantastic.
The clowns love hiding in that as well, which is nice.
There they go, right on cue.
I love it.
They're like, yes, this is our home. Welcome to my
They
crib.
absolutely love it. It's a bit sad at night when all the hammers are receded and they're hugging a little empty hammer, but they love it, so that's all that matters.
Nice.
And then I've got another Maxima clam.
You got 2 clams.
I do.
It's crazy.
That one was tiny when I got it. So that one, I'm pretty sure, was actually a spawned one from Monsoon, because it was probably about 40 mil when I bought it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely.
So that's grown pretty quick. In like a year, it's grown to that size.
Quick.
So
probably testament to the captive spawned clams. I mean, I know clams do grow quickly, but I mean, it's obviously not gone through shock adjusting to aquarium life if that's all it's ever known.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I love the colours of that. It's like a sort of a nice contrast down the sand bed.
Definitely.
And then I've got some lobophilias here. I've had these for quite a while, and I absolutely love them. I think they're just sort of a nice sort of filler coral.
Definitely. It looks like a big flubbery rock there, doesn't it?
It does.
You don't have any issues with it stinging the clam near it, anything like that?
Nah, I've had another lobo near there, and they actually stung each other, which was a bit weird. So they must have been slightly different. Yes. I don't know. You get that like.
If only we could ask them why they were fighting, but it'd make life a lot easier.
Oh, and then I've tried to put a lot of sort of zoas and stuff in the middle, but I think just because they don't get a lot of light there, it's a bit difficult. So I might have to sort of either trim something up the top, or take corals out there. I don't know.
Either way it works. You've still got, even though like they're closed up a little bit, which it's probably at the moment due to the coral manager sitting on them. But they still, I mean, they're still, you can see the colour on them and you can see the life there. It's still nicer than just a bare bit of rock. So
and that's why I've given up feeding all my corals too, because the moment I feed them, the shrimp come along and
just trains the shrimp to come
it's horrible.
And savage their food out of them.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty impressive assortment of a very mixed reef in quite a narrow space. You touched on earlier that your alkalinity is fairly low compared to what a lot of people run, and they're sort of low to mid 7 range. Can you tell us about some of your other parameters?
So calcium I keep around 420.
Yes.
Magnesium sort of around 12 to 1300.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I don't actually measure them that much.
That's fine.
I kind of, early on in the game, like I used to always chase parameters, and if it was slightly out, I'd try and fix it.
Yep.
I felt like doing that actually made things worse, because then the tank doesn't just adapt to whatever it's got. So I've tried to sort of just make the tank as stable as possible and just keep it like that, because corals will adapt to most things. Like,
for sure.
We do a lot of water chemistry analysis with the university, and different areas of reefs at different times, different oceans, they all have completely different nutrient makeups, alkalinity, trace elements. So find something that works, stick to it, it's fine.
Don't try to fight the balance.
Yeah, exactly, So I mainly measure alkalinity, and then based off if my alkalinity changes, then I'll either up the dosing of all the other stuff or reduce it, depending. Normally it's upping. I don't think I've ever had to reduce the amount of dosing. But nutrients, so nitrates generally set like 1 to 2, super low, if I can detect them at all.
Hence the auto feeder on there.
Exactly. I have experimented with dosing nitrates before. I try not to, so that's why I just feed pretty heavy as well. I would like to get them up just to increase the colour a bit, but everything's happy and healthy. I don't really want to mess around with it. Phosphates I don't really measure. Never really had any issues with them. I think that's just too because of my roller mat as well. Does a really good job at extracting everything. Also too, I regularly clean all the algae off the glass as well. So I think the algae actually acts as sort of a natural sort of sink for a lot of that phosphate. And so when I scrape it off and it gets taken up by the roller mat, that's one way of reducing it.
For sure.
So that sort of really helps with managing those nutrient levels.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Maintenance-wise, system like this, what's your sort of routine like? You're doing water changes on it frequently, not?
Yeah, so it really depends on how much I have going on. So I don't really have a set maintenance schedule. I try and do 120 litre change a week.
Okay.
It probably, it doesn't really need it, but I just kind of figure like in natural systems, you got water coming in and out. I would be keen to sort of try the Triton method.
Sure.
But I might try that on my other tank I'll set up. But for this, it works, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's one of the things. You've got this established under a routine that it works with your lifestyle at this point in time.
Yeah, Exactly.
So, you know, we as hobbyists, we're way too quick to tip things upside down and do something completely different.
Exactly.
So sometimes what works, keep it working.
A good analogy I heard was it's like having a marine tank is like steering a large ship. You got to make lots of little adjustments. You can't just steer it all in one hit and then you'll sink everything. So
we're not into the business of capsizing.
No. But so apart from, so say I do a water change once a week, I'll gravel back the sand. I sort of go pretty light on it. I just try and remove as much detritus in it as possible. It gets moved around a lot, so there's generally not that much in it.
Sure.
I'll clean the wave makers sort of once a month, so I just clean them in vinegar, give them a quick dip for a few minutes, do that. It gets rid of all the coralline algae on it.
Yes.
Sump, I'll give a clean out once every 1 to 2 months, so I just suck all the shit out of the bottom. And
it's pretty, you say that, you know, you don't do much, but that's pretty dedicated. Cleaning the sump once a month or so.
It's, like it's pretty quick, like, to be honest, like, but I do spend a lot of time cleaning the glass every day, but that's just because I put all this time and effort into this tank. I want to enjoy it.
You've got a system that looks ultra clear. You want it looking ultra clear.
Exactly, yeah. It's nice when friends come over too, and
Of course.
But so in terms of maintenance, it's actually really easy and simple. Like when I go away, like I feel confident that I can ask a lot of friends to come look after it, just because it sort of runs itself.
You don't need a PhD to run this
No,
system.
definitely not. Just,
it helps, but you don't need it.
It does. What does help is being able to research things on your own and work out answers to questions instead of having to ask people all the time.
Sure,
I think that's when you've got your own, when you're intuitive enough to sort of seek out the answers, and that's, I think the biggest sort of help to keeping a marine tank.
Definitely. Wise words.
But no, it's, in terms of maintenance, and then feeding, I'll feed some frozen food twice a day, 3 times a day. Auto feeder, I top up water every 3 days as well, so it goes through probably about 3 to 4 litres in RODI top up water, just because of the open top of it.
It's pretty decent. 1% volume a day. It's pretty considerable.
The only thing I would change as well in the future is putting a little lip around the top of the tank. I get a lot of
little brace.
I get a lot of splashing of the fish, especially my blue tangs. If it's in the morning, they haven't been fed yet, they'll get quite angry and they'll come up and splash water over.
They know how to get your attention.
They really will be sitting here and they'll like, this massive splash over there.
And then they're just looking at you.
They're so grumpy, honestly. But
now, you've got this system absolutely cranking along now and it looks beautiful. Any future plans for this system other than to just enjoy?
Not really with this system. Like it's at a point where I quite enjoy it. I think I've got all the corals I want for it. Like I went to a few events recently. I was looking at all the corals I could get. I'm like, where would I actually put it? Like I don't have anywhere to put them. So I think, just sort of letting it grow out a bit more and sort of trimming it here and there. I'd like to get a bit more volume up in this area, which is why I sort of got all my milliporas there.
Yes.
So until they sort of grow out. So for this system, not too much, I think.
Too much. Well, that does drop a little hint there. You say for this system, that's about it.
For this system, yes.
The bug has bitten, and you may well have some plans for another system on the way.
Much to my wife's dismay, yes.
Any chance you can take us through what's going on there with this new mystery system?
Sure. So, like, you could probably tell, like, a lot of my tanks I've had in the past, like, I like to try and do sort of stuff different, just for my own sort of, I don't know. I like to have systems that are different to what everyone else has.
Sure.
So, in being a marine scientist, I work a lot in the sort of photophysiology side of corals. And I'm like, well, corals generally always tend to grow towards the light.
Yes.
So I had an idea. I'm like, what if I put lights under the bottom of a tank?
Yeah.
So I went down this rabbit hole of trying to sort of design this tank where I could put lights underneath. So that's kind of my next setup. So I've got actually a cade, which is right behind you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll step aside and pan right behind me here, and here is said cade.
So I got this, so originally started as a bit of a sort of passion project. I had a mate's old Red Sea Reefer, which I absolutely butchered and put some holes in the bottom. And I was going to shine all these lights through. And I think, to be honest, I think it would have worked. I just had to manage sort of the heating of the lights because they would get quite hot in the sump.
Sure.
And then I posted a video on YouTube about it, and Kate Cade actually reached out to me and they said, our tanks would actually be perfect for this.
Yes.
And I said, they actually would, because we actually use a lot of Cade tanks with the university.
Sure.
And as you can see here, they don't have a base on the underside, which means mounting lights to the underside would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
As well as actually being able to manage all the algae on the glass as well. So this is a Cade S2 600.
Yes.
So it's sort of on the smaller side of the Cade tanks. It's really cool. It's got an ATO at the back, so it's all gravity fed. They've got a power bar on the side here, which is awesome.
I love the Cade power center, and it comes fully assembled too. You just
so easy.
open one box, put that tank on top of it.
I'm really keen for this power bar too, because what I didn't show you about this tank is just absolutely monstrosity of where I keep all my cables. So,
I know I've been making jokes about Instagram and reality, but you've just showed us both sides.
That's a bit of an insight. So I'm really keen for this.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, so what I did was I mounted some blades underneath.
Yeah.
So I really like the blades because they actually don't give out a lot of heat, so they would actually be perfect for this tank.
Definitely.
So the idea is that I'll build sort of a floating aquascape that will come out. It'll be a bit of a ball. I'll have light shining from the bottom and then light shining from the top. And basically I want to have coral going all the way over the tank.
Super interesting. That was going to be my next question. Was it just going to be light on the bottom, but now you're going to have light top and bottom. And
exactly.
It's going to have basically a frisbee out of the middle of the tank that has coral growing full all the way around.
Pretty much, because I was gonna sort of have nothing on the top, but I thought it's a bit of a waste of space. Like the whole point of having lights underneath is to make the most of all the corals growing. So I thought, well, I might as well.
May as well go above
and
too.
The Cade's got enough depth that I can sort of do that.
Absolutely,
as well.
yeah. You can grow a pretty decent.
It's a lot bigger than I was looking on their website. I'm like, oh, which one should I get? And then I got here. I'm like, oh crap. But that's all right. It's here. Nothing I can do about that now. But I think it's a perfect size for it, to be honest.
I think it's going to be a fantastic experiment, if nothing else. But well, we've all seen the results you get from your tanks now, so I think it's going to be a pretty successful experiment. And I am 100% certain you're going to be setting a little bit of a trend that we're going to be seeing these tanks with upside down reefs happening quite a bit. So that's super exciting to see come together. If people want to see the progression of this tank, and of course your custom beautiful peninsula over here, they can obviously do so by following you on various social channels.
Yeah, so Sydney Reefing on both Instagram and YouTube. I love to hear your feedback. So if you've got any comments or ideas or suggestions,
for sure,
please send them. I love engaging with everyone in the community. I think it's a great community. It's all part of the fun, I guess.
I'd love to hear if anyone out there has done an upside down reef before.
Me too. I don't think
it has, but
no.
It's funny, whilst I've been in Sydney here, I went to one of my favourite shops in Sydney, Aquaristic, and they've got I'm taking a leap of faith here by calling it an upside down freshwater tank where they've got lights underneath.
Okay.
But it was more to create a sort of a moody, shadowy effect rather than trying to grow plants upside down. But it's obviously something in the water up here in Sydney. You guys all want to put lights underneath your tanks.
I kind of view, I love keeping corals, and I think, as a scientist, a lot of people sort of say, oh, haven't you had enough of corals when you go home? I'm like, but it's kind of like art in your house. Like corals are really pretty. They're like a living animal. You have a whole coral reef ecosystem with the fish.
Yes. And
it looks beautiful as well. Like why can't it be a piece of art?
That's right.
And I think that actually does a lot for sort of the hobby and stuff. It gets more people into it who sort of like the aesthetics of it.
Absolutely.
Which then in turn also helps research and stuff like that, because then people will become more aware about coral reefs and a lot of the threats that they face as well.
You are just a walking, talking representative for the marine reef hobby and industry, and it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you in person, come to your house and see these incredible tanks, both the one that's prepared earlier and the one that is on the way. It's super cool, and can't thank you enough. So thank you so much for having us here and sharing all of these beautiful tanks with us here on YouTube on Parker's Reef.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Cheers. All right, guys, there you have it. That is Hadley, England, aka Sydney Reefing, the man that has been producing some incredibly juicy content on Instagram and now, thankfully, right here on YouTube. I'll be sure to put all of the links in the description below so you can follow the progress of not only that incredible custom peninsula that he built, but also that brand new cutting edge, potentially first of its kind, upside down reef where he has the lighting above and below the scape. Super keen to see how that turns out. I would love to know if anyone out there has done that before, and I'm sure Hadley would like to know too, because he's about to sort of, I guess, reinvent the wheel and go through some challenges that we have not yet faced in this hobby. So if you have heard of a tank like that before, please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear all about it. And like I said, I'm sure Hadley would too, but be sure to jump on those pages, follow, subscribe, like, do all the things you need to do so you can keep up to date with Hadley and his journey on both his existing reef tank, but also that brand new upside down reef, because I'm sure it's going to be a journey to follow for sure. Now, I will wrap things up there. I hope you have been enjoying the content each and every weekend at the moment. We're doing 2 video drops a week, which is keeping me very busy, but I hope it's keeping you guys entertained at home. I do want to take the opportunity to give these names on screen here a big shout out. They are my channel members who are chipping in a couple of dollars each and every month to make it possible for me to get these videos out to you. They make it possible for me to get out and about, talk to people like Hadley, get all of this content, and find the time to share it with you guys on YouTube for free of charge. So a massive shout out to these guys on screen here. And of course, a big thank you to everyone who is a channel subscriber. There's about 36, almost 36,500 of you, but there's always room for more. It takes 2 seconds of your time, costs no money whatsoever. There is a button in the bottom corner down there, and if you subscribe and hit the bell notification, it will let you know each and every time we drop a new video on this channel, so you do not miss out on these incredible reef tanks that we get to see push the boundaries, like Hadley's upside down reef tank. Now, I don't have anything else to say, so I will wrap things up there. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, guys, stay safe, keep reefing. Cheers, bye.